Welcome back to the Uncinched podcast, where we uncinch what's really going on in the horse world. You guys, this has been a long time coming, and me and Britton are so freaking exciting.
Yes.
Today, and possibly next episode, because y'all are yappers. Just like us, it is finally time to do the Uncinched Confessions.
The first one of the series.
Yeah.
First one of the season. So,
what's our theme?
Our theme is an unpopular opinion you will defend with your whole chest. And boy, did you have a lot of unpopular opinions to defend. We had over 400 submissions. So we had to kind of pick and choose because otherwise we'd be here a while. Yeah. But I think we got some good ones for you.
Yeah. And hopefully some funny ones.
So without further ado, let's get right into it because otherwise we're going to be here all night.
Yeah.
So,
all
right. So we kind of broke them up. If you've been part of the Uncinched Confession segment.
What Uncinched Confessions is.
Well, we just assumed you've been along on the adventure, but I'll just go into it. Our Uncinched Confessions is where we talk to the audience anonymously. We ask a question, which is the one I just stated before, where you will defend with your whole chest an unpopular opinion. And we ask you guys to give your feedback and your thoughts, and then we just discuss it. And we let you essentially pick our brains by giving your thoughts, your feedback, and we have something to say about it.
Mm-hmm. And we might not have something to say, and we might roast you.
But not you specifically, just the opinion.
Yeah. So with that, we would like to give a little disclaimer. This is just our fun. Maybe, well, we don't know what's in here. We don't really know what we're reading.
We're just hoping it's nothing like absolutely insane.
Yeah, which sometimes you guys get a little bit spicy. But with that, we just wanted to say these are just our opinions. If we read your submission and you do not like our reply,
that's okay.
Please remember that it is just your opinion and it is just our opinion, and we're not here to hurt anybody's feelings.
No.
We're just here to build awareness and share our thoughts and allow you guys to let your voice be heard. So I guess before we get into this, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for everyone who has submitted. There's been a huge influx in submissions this year in comparison to last year. So that's really exciting for us to see. So I think I can speak for us both and just say we're very grateful and we're really excited to hear what you guys are thinking about.
And we love that you guys are so engaged. It's really makes us feel really good because we put a lot of work into this, and so having people that appreciate it is really nice.
Yeah.
And before we get too far into it, I really am sorry I sound like a gremlin right now. Hay fever, it's getting me, man. And I talked way too much last week, which I know, surprising to everybody. And so my voice box is kind of fried. So if you're like, why does she sound like a chain smoker? She's been chain smoking. So we're going to break it up into some categories just so it doesn't bounce around too much. And the first one we'll be talking about kind of more mindsets and identity with horses. So our first question, or submission, sorry, not question. People are not looking and judging you as much as you judge yourself. This changed not just my horsemanship, but also my day-to-day life. People do not pay attention to what others are doing at every moment of every day, but we ourselves are. Thoughts, prayers, any of it.
That's a solid one.
Yeah.
And I can see how they could categorize that as an unpopular opinion, because I think the vast majority of us think that everyone is judging us when in reality, no one really gives a shit.
Yeah, and I think like we are our own worst critic. And, you know, the people who are judging you are probably not at the same level as you in a negative way. Because the people who are above you and who are succeeding, they're going to be not even caring. Because why would they? Why do they need to pay attention to that? So the people who are making you feel bad or judging you for trying, they're beneath you. They are. It's a fact. You don't criticize people when you are all the way up.
When you've been through the same things.
Yeah, and you have bigger things to do.
Yeah. That's a good one.
All right. Next is that everybody has their own self-interest in mind, so I should do the same. I think that's really basic. Like, you should always have your self-interest in mind. Not to say be selfish and be unkind or anything like that, but I think it's important that you are putting yourself first, especially as business owners or young women. It can be often feel scary to do that, and we often are told, oh no, you have to worry about everybody else before you worry about yourself. But I think it's really important that you are thinking about yourself first, because otherwise you burn out, otherwise you're unfulfilled. There's just so many negatives if you don't put yourself first in most situations.
Yep, I agree. And in the context of riding, like, yeah, stay in your own lane. You do you. That's the best place to be when there's no comparison and when you're really investing in yourself. Like, you can't let other people kind of get into your vibe or get into the current that you're trying to
be create. A salmon.
Be a salmon. Go up the current.
Yeah. Do your own thing. Third comment. Hobbies are for everyone, and you don't have to be the best rider in the world to be allowed to participate. Not everyone has the time or money to be in competitions, and sometimes we don't want to. We just want to ride and enjoy our time with the horse as a hobby. It was in all caps. Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah, I see it a lot in like a professional capacity. I find a lot of trainers will end up losing clients because they'll be like, you as a trainer, your goals are always to be getting better as a rider, getting better as a competitor, and you might be a very competitive person, but that's because your livelihood depends on it. And sometimes it's hard to separate yourself from who you're teaching. And I think a lot of times a trainer or a coach can come from like a good place and try to push you. But I think a lot of coaches, especially if you're teaching people who aren't really in the competitive scene, if you are pushing that on them, it makes it tough and makes people not want to work with you. And it's so important to think about, okay, well, if I was this lady and what are her goals? Why, like, they're paying you money to feel good because it's a hobby. So why are you going to make it hard? Why are you going to, like, challenge is good, but why are you going to make it so that they feel unconfident or dissatisfied or not, like they're not enough every time that they have a ride because they're not competing and they're not winning those ribbons and they're not getting those accolades. And I think it's so important that as a coach, you need to separate yourself and your goals and your expectations for your people and just help them reach their goals in their own time and in their own capacity. And they do not have the same capacity as you. As a trainer, you're riding most days, every week, numerous horses. You're practicing your craft over and over and over again. Whereas, you know, the average hobby rider riding 3-4 times a week, that's as much as they can do. How can you compare? And how can you put those expectations on somebody? I think that's BS.
Also, I think it's really important to go back to what they said. Not everyone has the time and money because competitions are expensive.
Yeah.
Hauling is expensive. We know this sport in general is very expensive, and why would we discourage people from just enjoying it?
Yeah.
Sometimes the horses aren't suited for it either.
Yeah.
You know, they might be skittish in those environments, or the person's really introverted, so they don't like that type of environment, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're not allowed to participate. And I think that as a community, we need to be more appreciative of people just trying and just being there, because I think it's like 80% when they did the statistics of it. 80% of people are just hobby riding. They just enjoy having a horse. So most of it, and only like 20% are actually doing it as a profession or competitively. And so we got to treat it like the 80%.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good one.
All right. Next is just listen to the Gut Health podcast episode. Shout out. Thank you. My confession is I'm not a horse owner, but I still think it's good to know this stuff if you are around other people's horses regularly or riding a lesson horse. Or I'm just an interloper. I agree. It's if you are riding, if you're doing lessons or you are around horses regularly because maybe your family has farms or whatever it is, your mom's a barn manager or something like that. It is important that you know the basics of horses, even if it's not something that necessarily interests you, because they are a live animal and you want to keep yourself safe and you want to make sure that you're kind of setting yourself up for success, especially if you are riding lesson horses.
Yeah.
Especially then, because that means you're already interested. And so taking a listen of like, oh, how does the digestive system work? Because then maybe you're there and you notice something's really off. Mm-hmm. You have the ability to help out in that moment as basically a bystander.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a really good one.
All right. Last one in this category. I allow my horse to communicate with me and I will listen. If she is absolutely done with training or grooming or whatever we are working on that day, I will listen and end the session, even if that means we only worked for 15 minutes. Some days she wants to keep going forever, and some days it's not happening. I also allow her to politely, in all caps, ask for treats if she feels like she deserves one, and I'm allowed to tell her no. I try to respect her like the living being with thoughts and feelings that she is. She is not a motorcycle. She is a living being.
This is hard without seeing the situation.
Yep.
But from my perspective as someone who handles a lot of horses, this gives me vibes that if not, like I'm going to start this off by saying I am not against having a relationship with your horse where, if your horse acts up a little bit, you're doing investigation and you're listening. But there comes a point where we have to understand her dynamics, and if you are not the leader and if your horse doesn't respect and doesn't follow you and doesn't trust you, them refusing, I don't know if that's necessarily like a thing to brag about when it comes to how you're handling your horse. And I mean, I don't know the situation, and you guys could be completely fine, and that's where I'm kind of trying to figure out the most politically correct answer to this question. But to be frank, in a lot of ways, I don't think I see why this is an unpopular opinion.
Okay, I'm going to be less politically correct than you. I think it's not a good idea. Obviously, I don't know the dynamic of this person and their horse, and I'm a big believer that if this horse has done everything, been there, done that, and all of a sudden is having an issue with something, yeah, maybe we take a break or get a body worker out or something to that caveat. But
yes. If they decide 15 minutes into a session that they
don't want to do it, you're allowing them to push you over. Mm-hmm. It's like children. If you allow them to constantly be taking an inch all the time, all of a sudden it becomes a mile.
Yeah. Or if a child makes all the decisions,
yeah,
you're gonna get hurt. Ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, and you're not teaching manners because, if a horse decides to start kicking at you when you're grooming and you say, okay, well, I'm not going to groom anymore, you're now effectively reinforcing the behavior that if they don't want to do it anymore, they don't have to. And like you said, there is a herd dynamic, and it's about safety too.
Yes.
If you are allowing them to get these behaviors that are negative, like kicking or threatening to bite or stuff like that, you're teaching them that's okay, and it gives you you're more likely to get into a situation that's not ideal. And like I said, it's really important to differentiate between what is just being essentially a tantrum of I don't want to do it versus, something's going on. And it's harder to differentiate that because now you've allowed this behavior to become normal. And I would agree that I don't think this is it's not my thing that I would do, because I think I'm teaching now my horse that they can walk all over me, and then it just escalates from there. What if they don't want to ride anymore? They're just going to buck me off? Is that normal?
And then
I
you
don't
listen,
think that's okay.
Then you have a horse that you can't ride. What happens when you get hurt or you get sick and you got to go to the hospital and someone needs to take your horse, and all your horse knows is, well, I flex my muscles a little bit and I get to go
do whatever I want. Or what if you're in the mountains and you don't have the ability to just get off in 15 minutes? Like, I think this is going to come off harsh, but I think it's a naive perspective, because it's basically where you've always been in a safe position that you could just like let it stop. But what if you're in the middle of, herding with the cows? What if you're having to do some roping because there's something going on with that calf, or branding, or you're going to the mountains and you're in a wild area? What if there are bears? What if there are cougars and stuff like that? You can't have things acting up like that. Or what if there's a cliff ledge? Like, now you're all the way off the mountain.
Yeah, it's very true. And I hope, if you're listening and you made this comment, I hope you're not offended.
Yep.
And we could be definitely misinterpreting this.
That's why I said it depends on the situation.
It's hard to know, and not to like call you out and say like
you've done everything wrong. No, that's not what we're saying.
And 100% respect the initiative to want to think about your horse's perspective first.
Yep.
But I think might be a good opportunity to look at what is best for the horse long term. And just like kids, you have to have a tantrum, you've got to cry, you've got to get in trouble, you've got to get grounded in order to learn boundaries and manners and respect and life skills that carry you on in the rest of your life. And I think
that eventually actually do you better when you have to leave the nest, because you might not always have that horse. And now you've left it with this options, and good horses sometimes don't find good homes. And if you have a good horse with bad behaviors, it likely won't find a good home. Yeah. So, and I also think having treats is no problem. I'm not one of those people who says no treats.
Yeah.
I think they are living beings, and we have to treat them as such as well.
Yeah.
All right, you get the next one.
All right, this next category, we have named it lifestyle and horse welfare. All right. Horse that live in box stalls is a no-no. Just horse. Horses should be living outside with space to be horses. I could talk year off for hours about the negative effects of limited turnout and being confined to a 12x12. But why don't you guys do it? Thanks. We will, don't worry. Obviously, there are exceptions, injuries, shows, extreme weather, and so on. I'm talking a perfectly healthy horse living the majority of his life confined. I don't care about your discipline, level, or showing, value of your horse. Let it be outside. Peace.
I agree.
Yeah.
Horses are not meant to sit 24/7. It affects their gut. If you want to learn more about that, please go back to our gut health episode, Navigating the Gut Oral System, a gut feeling. Just quick plug there. But yeah, it's true. Horses are not meant to stand still all the time, and a 12x12 all the time nonstop is not actually healthier for them. It increases their risk of colic. It increases their risk of ulcers too, because they're not moving around enough. They can get a little bit more anxious. A lot of the time too, they can't see their neighbors very well, and horses are herd animals, and so it kind of leads to isolation at times. Like this person has expressed, there are exceptions. If injuries, obviously we don't want them roaming around and causing more problems, because they always do. They're dumb sometimes. But for the vast majority of their life, I would agree it's better to do turnout. That's consistent with as much roaming space as they can. If you look at data, that's the data shows it. It's literally the stats.
I thought you were saying like data, like daddy. I was like,
if you look at daddy, he's going to tell you. No, I meant data, like science.
I got it. I was just at first like, wait, where's this going?
Yeah, if you look at any of the data and studies that have come out in the last, 3 to 5 years, all of them are confirming that it is better off to have turnout consistently with as much roaming as possible, because they were developed evolutionarily. Their bodies were developed for it.
Yep. Next one. You are not your horse's best friend. Horses need horse friends. Just because they get used to being alone doesn't mean they like it. Mentally, emotionally, and physically, horses need other horses. People are not a substitute for horsey companions. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
Yep. Yeah.
Horses are herd dynamics. What we've said that a couple times already with the hierarchies and the herds, and we aren't. That's not how we regulate, and they need it to self-regulate. They need to be able to. It's kind of like having your group of girlfriends. You have your boyfriend or your partner, whoever they are, but sometimes you need to vent about them. So I'm sure my horse goes back and be like, this bitch over here, she was the worst today. She
brought
did
out the cart again.
And do you know how scared I am of that thing? So like being able to, and then the friends being like, yeah, mine did the same last week. And obviously,
mine brought a plastic bag and a stick.
They probably don't do it like that. But more my analogy is like, you have your friends, and you can't rely all of your personality, all of your woes, your venting, your frustrations, everything on one person. So why would you do that with the horse? Like, why would the horse have to rely on you solely for everything? That it just doesn't make sense. It's not leading to a healthy relationship.
Codependency ain't it. We don't need it.
Yeah, we don't want that. But yeah, like, that's period.
Agree with that one.
I didn't know that was unpopular.
Yeah, I think it's pretty
I thought
popular.
it was like normal, but maybe I'm wrong.
All right. Ooh. I really, 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 really think clipping your horse and then putting a blanket on it every day in the winter is so stupid. Why is this part Icelandic horse clipped with a blanket on? Is tacking up with their natural coat really that hard? How could this be comfortable for them? 90% of the people that do this do not ride enough to justify this, in my opinion. Please help me understand. Also, it looks stupid. Okay, I agree with the point of 90% of people that do this don't ride enough to justify.
Yep.
I agree with that.
And also about how if it's a part Icelandic horse, why are they clipped? Because
have you seen an Icelandic horse?
They're fuzzy.
They are.
Well, they got of hair. Yeah. They've got like the beard, the belly beard.
Yeah. They've got lots of hair and it's very coarse.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see the point on this, but I can also see the other side. If you're riding a lot of horses, or if you are a hobbyist and you can only come and ride after work, you finish work at 5, you don't get to the barn until 6, you ride for an hour, you're not done until 7:30. Well, you still need to go home, cook dinner, whatever. God forbid you have a child. Gross. No offense to those with children, but like after you ride your horse, it's wintertime. You don't want to turn it out wet, and letting it cool out in a cooler takes a good half hour, 45 minutes, depending on how sweaty they get. And then blow drying, some horses don't like blow dryers. Some horses be scared of it, or it's not very fast. It takes a while.
Or some people don't actually have like the electricity in the barns or the areas to do that.
Yeah.
I think for me, I would agree with this commenter, because I do think that way too many are clipped for no reason. Like, if you're not sweating up your horse all the time, like maybe once every now and then, I don't think you need to be clipping them. And on top of it, we do have cold winters. I know this year wasn't very cold in our region, but we normally do have really cold winters. And now you're adding in like having to blanket and be able to remove the blanket too. So on the other side of the coin, for your hobbyists that only can do it every now and then, now you're actually making it a little harder on yourself, because you're going to have to come remove that blanket or put a different one on depending on the weather, because blankets get hot, and if that sun is coming out in a funny way or anything like that, you're adding steps that maybe you didn't need. And I personally don't clip my horse. I've debated it only on a few occasions, because he is a very itchy boy. Not everywhere, just on his dang face. And so he always does this to me. And this is why I can't wear a one-ear bridle with this bugger, is because he goes, ah, and starts itchy and pulls off his damn bridle. I think he does it on purpose, to be honest. And so I've debated kind of doing something around.
Yeah. Like, want to see a trick? I'm naked.
Yeah, literally. And I'm like, shit, I have no reins.
There's a bye.
But I'm of the same opinion. I don't think that most horses need to be clipped. And I think it's an extra step that maybe you've just been told you should do and don't understand the meaning behind it.
Yes. But I can also see the perspective if you're riding a lot of horses.
Oh, yeah. If you're like moving them through and they're sweating up consistently, they're always in like a heated arena, that's very different. And I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think this one is situational based. So,
yeah.
Last one of this section. I like to see the last rib on my young growing horses.
Just the last one.
Just the last one.
Baby back ribs.
The baby back rib.
Because they're young. They're babies. And it's the last rib. Baby back rib. Sorry. I'm a dad joke lover.
That makes perfect sense to me. I don't think we have to add any more.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think yeah. Oh, training and tool misuse. Oh, this is going to be spicy.
I'm so scared.
As soon as tools are involved, it's always spicy.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Oh, this is a long one. Prepare for my dyslexia to come out. All right. Tie downs are the most misused task and the number one worst thing for your horse's body if used incorrectly, which 99% of horse people do. Ooh, this is spicy. As someone who used to do body work on horses that have some of the most imbalanced bodies are ones that use tie downs that are way too short. Team roping horses are some of the worst overall groups I worked on, along with barrel horses. Oh, she's calling you out. When used improperly.
Oh, shit.
When used improperly, they cause not only a lot of issues in the head and neck, but transcend throughout the rest of the body. People say they use them to keep their horses' heads down, and they don't really do that. Yeah, they can't get their head up all the way, but they can still move their head up. They were designed for helping a horse's balance, not to cinch their heads down! Exclamation. They also shortened their horse's stride. The average horse can only extend its front feet as far as their nose. Unless they are really flexible like dressage horses, they usually have further reach than most. Otherwise, by shortening a tie down, you shorten that horse's stride. Kind of contradictory for speed events, don't you think? Ah! I could go on and on. I will die on this hill.
This is a good one. And yeah, they have a point.
Yep.
They do have a point. Tie downs are used incorrectly.
Yeah.
And have you felt that in...
I probably not to the same extent of this person, because I actually I actually don't see many horse owners with tie downs anymore. So I wouldn't say that it's like 100% like that, because I just don't simply see a lot of owners with them anymore. Just from my client base. However, I did find it funny saying that the dressage horses are flexible, because in my experience, they are like some of the tightest. And I think it's because of the way they hold themselves. But that's another conversation. I do agree, though, that it shortens their stride. Like, I would 100% say, because they only go where that nose is going. And so it is contradictory for speed events, especially barrel racing and team roping. But just because it's not my client base that I see a lot of them having this, I can't agree or disagree on the balance thing, but I can see where that would be. Like, I would 100% can see where they're coming from, where that would occur. Because if you imagine you're kind of tucked in all the time, you're gonna naturally have compensation throughout the rest of your body. Because if I'm thinking about it as like my head's tucked in and my neck can't extend right away, like if you do that, if you watch this video, I'm sorry I look weird, but like immediately you can kind of feel it
strain your lumbar.
Straining not just your lumbar, but like right in your shoulder blades, and you can't actually maneuver as easily, so it would check out, is what I'm saying. It's not something that I can say 100%, but I can see all of that being true.
Yeah, I think a lot of people use certain training aids as band-aids, instead of actually going down to the foundational work and fixing it. And it gives equipment like tie downs, spurs, a bad rep, because when they're used wrong, they can do a lot of damage and really impact or impede how your horse can move and perform. And but I think for a lot of people, the other side of the spectrum is not competing or not getting to that thing, and that I find that gadgets like this can be a bit of a band-aid type situation.
I would agree.
Yeah.
It's a band-aid for bad behavior sometimes, like, you know, when they're popping their head up all the time.
Poor training, poor conditioning,
it's
poor riding.
This is going to come out across really rude, but I don't want it to be. But it's like the lazy way of fixing it. They're like, oh, I'll just do this, because then they can't.
Yeah.
Instead of going, well, why are they doing that?
Yeah.
And how do I train it? Or get a body worker, because there's often reasons why they're popping their head up. Body-wise.
Or, okay, if I actually do my research on how biomechanics and collection work, I realize that it takes literally years to develop self-carriage and collection.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know that information. Let's just tie their head down.
Yeah. I think I just want it done in 10 days instead of 10 years.
Fixes the problem, but...
in quotations.
Who pays the price for it? Your horse's body.
Yep. Draw gags, or any gags really, cannot have good mechanics. They give mixed signals and most operate on intense discomfort. Back to you, Taya.
For the most part, I actually agree. Gags do give mixed signals, but some horses really like them. Some horses really like them. And it's not very many, but some horses go really well in it. Sometimes, like I find when you're transitioning from snaffle to like a leverage shank bit, I find like a junior cow horse bit, so it's like a minor gag, it's kind of like a nice transition bit. So like I think in certain situations it serves its purpose, but certain versions of them can absolutely operate in immense discomfort, but so can a snaffle.
Yeah, so can a lot of bits.
So can a side pull. Like it's all in how it's used. Yeah. And I think if you do not understand
your equipment,
then you will be giving mixed signals. And I feel like a gag is one of those bits that you do really have to understand how it works and know your horse. So I kind of agree, but also I feel like a lot of horses like gags. And that's something that, I don't know, you got to listen to the horse, man. Peace, love, and zen.
All right. Changing your bit every other ride will not fix your horse's poor behavior or issues. Sure, it might help in a pinch, but it's a band-aid to most issues that require your time and sometimes going back to basics to teach your horse how to respond to pressure and hold both you and them accountable. I hear from Taya, she has some feelings.
Yeah, the band-aid word.
Yeah.
It's very true.
It's like we just talked about it.
Yes. Gives me
flashbacks.
Well, I just think this is one that we see a lot of. Yeah. If you can't do it in a snaffle.
I think also the bits you use are dependent on what you're doing with your horse too.
Yeah.
And not to say that you shouldn't be able to do it in lighter bits at any point. However, I would agree that changing it all the time is not the answer. If they're just uncomfortable with every bit or they're fighting it, there's something else going on.
Yeah.
Look at their teeth. Is there some dentition work that is not proper? Look, do they still have their wolf teeth?
Yeah.
like it's these little things that you need to step into before maybe going like, oh, it's the bit, I have to go somewhere else. Is it the TMJ causing problems and it's just the way it pulls on it? I'd agree. Changing your bit all the time does not fix things from happening. Obviously, sometimes certain horses prefer certain things, but usually it's a preference, and it's not because they won't do it. It just means that, they do it better with this.
Yeah. Yeah, changing it all the time is, I don't think, really fair to them.
No, because it's hard for them to also get used to, too.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, another bit one. I think we have some opinions about bits. You don't need a bigger bit. You need better hands. Tools do not replace horsemanship. Okay, preach. Preach. I agree. Your tools are not a replacement for your being lazy. You need to learn.
Sense of timing, lack of feel.
Yeah. Tools are meant to help you get better at something, not to replace your ability to do something. Yeah. I know we're living in AI regions and AI is replacing us all, but it's not meant to think for you in the same way your equipment isn't. It's meant to give you access to something to be better. So using a tool to increase your horsemanship and to better your horsemanship so that when that tool is removed, you are better. That's important. You shouldn't be using the tool for the rest of your life, if that makes sense.
Or having to go to a bigger one and a bigger one and a bigger one and a bigger one. And then all of a sudden you're riding your horse in
10 different harnesses.
Bicycle chain.
Yeah, no, hands down, agree. I think a lot of trainers and colt starters tend to train a horse to how they would like to ride them, not to what is best for the client and in the long run of the horse. Therefore, not setting the horse up for success as well as they could. Ooh, Taya, your opinion.
Okay. The first thing I think of is yes, that is their job as a colt starter. You, as a person who's looking for a colt starter, if you have something very specific that you want to do, well, then choose a colt starter who's in that realm.
Yeah.
If you decide not to do that and you go pick the cheapest colt starter, the closest one to you, and they might specialize or ride a particular way and do something else, they're going to start that colt that way. And I think that's honestly on you, not on the colt starter. As a owner or as a person who's sending their horse into someone for training, I feel like part of your responsibility, especially if you're looking for something really specific, you have lots of preferences, you want your horse going a certain way. I get all of those things, and that is a-okay. Make sure you go do a consult and you go see how that trainer is riding that horse and what the facilities look like and what they are doing with the horses, so that you don't have expectations that aren't going to be met, and that colt starter's reputation also isn't going to be negatively tarnished and impacted because you didn't do your research about them either. And like, not to say that like if someone misuses your horse, I think that's a different conversation for right now. What I'm saying is, if you have a specific intention or specific purpose for your horse, make sure that you do your background checking on people and don't just willy-nilly send them to them. Because I could be a barrel racer and you could want a finished reining horse, but if I'm barrel racing all the time, I'm not going to ride a horse like a reiner.
Yeah.
I feel like that's on you a little bit, owner, not on a trainer or colt starter.
The only thing that I will, to your point, for me specifically, I'm going to use me as an example. I don't ride like you because I have a disability, and most riders don't ride like me. And it's on me to communicate that, though. Yeah. 100%. But I did say that to you. Hey, this is something that I struggle with. Can you train my horse to make sure that it works with me? And I think as an owner, you have to make your communications like that. Because that's the other thing. If you have very... I don't know what the right word is, but like when I'm reading this where you're like, it's not what's best for that horse in the long run, I'm wondering if you're kind of saying like, I want to do all these things, like I can reining stop and stuff like that, and so I send it to a trainer that'll do that, but they run my horse too hard, or in my opinion, or whatever it is. Make sure you're communicating that too, of being like, I don't want them to be a reining competitor. I want them to know how to rein, but I'm not here to push them into these zones. And it will increase, the knowledge of the colt breaker or trainer to know what you want. And I think it's really important you just communicate it.
Yeah, the communication is key.
You can't expect people to read your mind.
Yeah, and know exactly how you want a horse being rode, because that's exactly it, right? Like your situation, you can't use a certain leg.
And you knew me, but like if I just sent it to some random person and then went, oh, all they do is off the leg. Well, how would they know? How would they know that? I can't just be like, didn't you see my brace? Like, that's not how it works.
You gotta communicate, and that's where I feel like it's kind of your responsibility.
Yeah,
if you have specific things that you want done, communicate that, and
that's why the trainer's there. They're gonna do it a specific way, and that's why you chose them. And if you didn't choose them because you didn't know and you just sent them to the person who's closest, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. And then they go and just do what they normally do, and there was no clear, like, it's one thing if you set those expectations and then they're not met.
Kibosh it. Yeah.
And they're not met without realistic reason.
Yes.
But if you send a horse to a trainer and you were expecting a really specific outcome, but you didn't give any
clear boundaries, expectations, or comments,
then that's kind of a tough one for me.
Yeah, and I think that's important to see that side, because sometimes as owners we feel like it should be a certain way, but recognizing that's the way they've learned how to train. So you can't exactly be like upset if that's the only way they know how. Mm-hmm. All right, next. As someone who drives, my opinion is a little biased towards bits. Oh, another bit one. Because I have no way to give body cues from position or balance. Ooh, okay. The lines and my voice are the only way I have to communicate with my pony. So yes, I do use a bit. Liverpool on plain cheek position for at home, and then rough cheek for showing. Oh, sorry. Okay, I just understood. They use the Liverpool when they are at home and just chilling, and they use a rough cheek for when they're showing their horse. I think people should begin training/use the least invasive equipment that let the horse succeed. We can apply that to anything such as martingales or tie downs, but I'm discussing bits specifically. Some horses are fine in a snaffle and some might need a little more leverage, and it's an unusual case to have a horse that simply won't succeed without the minimal amount of equipment and harshness. Start with something simple and basic and see if user error is the problem first. I would agree with this. I think we went over that where we said like you should be able to start with like a smaller...
I like that last sentence. Start with something simple and basic and see if user error is the problem first. I really like that last comment. I think that's
important. And also, a lot of people don't know driving. I do drive horses, so it is true. Like, you have a lot less... You can't do body cues other than through your lines and through verbal commands. And if you're in a loud, noisy area, like I've driven in areas where there's screaming crowds of kids saying 6, 7, and it can be hard for them to hear. So a lot of it relies on your lines, and you have to have a bit that works for them. That's not going to give them sores. That's not going to give them problems, and that communicates effectively. And you have to make sure that you're also know your lines and know your horses of who should be on what side, who does better with what, and be very clear with your requests to them. And so driving is really fun that way because you have to really get more in tune with your hand placement because it's more dynamic, if you will. So I would agree with this.
Yeah. I really like that last part.
Yeah, I do too. I think that we should put that on a shirt.
Yeah.
See if it's user error is the problem first.
Okay. This next one is just our random section. We don't know how to categorize these bad boys, so buckle up. Okay. The bigger the horse, the nicer they are. Minis are gremlins.
I have a feeling this person has a big horse.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you're like the person who has a Clydesdale.
Yeah.
Like, that you're like, these minis are gremlins, but this Clydesdale's my best friend.
Yeah.
There's some slander with these minis.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of slander with the minis.
Yeah.
I understand it because I have seen the way some minis act. When I was growing up, my cousin, he had a mini, and this thing was a freaking menace. His name was Chumley.
Chumley?
Yeah, and he would ragdoll every kid. Like he was like, I'm so sweet, I'm so nice, get on my back. And then they'd go and he'd be like, let's go for a rodeo. And I remember I think I was like 12 or 13. So I got on him and I just sat on his back, and it was so funny because he was trying to buck and he just can't really get off the ground. And it was kind of funny.
Little man syndrome.
Yeah. And he was like, he thought he was so big, but he scared all the kids.
Yeah.
He was a menace. They're hard to train because they're so small. You often can't have a very big person on them.
I have had a mini for 5 years, and he is not tamed. He's great once you catch him, but you gotta catch him, and you gotta booby trap this little dude. He's wild.
Yeah, I think though that's the point though. Like, big people can't train them, so it's got to be the little kids, and the little kids don't know, and they just get absolutely obliterated by these ponies, and then the kids are like, I don't want to do this no more, and then they're like, haha, win.
And every adult who starts riding again, or every person that you talk to who finds out that you like horses, they always have this story like, when I was a kid, I'm scared of horses because I had this pony. Yeah. And then you're like, I know exactly what happened to you.
So I think the reason why minis get the slander is because big people can't ride them, and so then they just learn bad behavior. I think that's where it comes from.
And I think they get pretty defensive because I think when they're handled, sometimes people like physically manhandle them a bit.
Yeah, because you can.
And I think that they just end up getting a lot of resistance towards people, and and when
that's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of why they are the way they are, and I understand them 100%.
The bigger horses, I think, also are slower just because they have so much muscle, and
I
they're
have
just like
met
dopey.
some big horses who are jerks.
Oh yeah, I think definitely they can be.
There's jerks
everywhere.
Yeah.
In all the worlds.
In all sizes, in all
colors.
Yeah.
Sorrel.
Yeah.
Page.
But I would say on average the bigger horses, they are calmer, gentler, quieter.
I also think because they're like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. And it takes so much energy to like get them going somewhere.
Yeah, they don't want to. They're like, oh, that was a lot.
Yeah, if I have to exert energy, it should be for something legit.
Yep, fair enough.
Okay. Next one. This is another draft horse one. All draft horses you drive, you should be able to ride too. If you run into an issue somewhere remote, at least you have the option to ride out. Yeah, this is a really good one.
I think this is very overlooked.
Yeah.
Because I agree. And I know a lot of drafts, and most of them are rideable. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly why, because a lot of them go into like backcountry areas, and if that wagon breaks down or something, you need to be able to get out, and they do too. And I think it's important for them to know you don't have to do it all the time, you don't have to be riding all the time, but I think it is a very valid opinion, and I don't think a lot of people think of that, because they're like, oh well, they're just driving horses. Well, what if the wagon breaks down? What are you gonna do then? And I think that's a very, very good point. Yeah. And I really appreciate this one because I wouldn't have really thought of that.
Yeah. So good one. Okay. Next one. I absolutely love spurs. I won't ever not ride in them. And I will die on this hill.
My opinion is, I'm a fan of spurs, don't get me wrong, but if you don't know how to use the equipment, you shouldn't have it.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that I will die on that hill, is that spurs are used as a tool, and too many people have learned improperly that spurs are to spur and actively like weaponize them, you know, and that's not the point of it. It's supposed to be more refined.
It's not the Band-Aid,
yes,
like the tie down, like the bits.
And I think spurs have a place and a time, and I think they're great, but if you have no knowledge of how to use them and you use them improperly, I don't think that they are worthwhile to have, and I prefer that you don't have them.
Yeah, but when used right,
they're great.
I'm wearing my spurs right now.
She literally is wearing spurs.
It's like jingle bells.
It was funny because we were talking just before this episode, and I was like, you and your spurs just driving here. And she's like, yeah, I could drive in my truck, but when I got into the small car, we were zipping.
Yeah, I got into a Honda Civic with my spurs on, and I was like, flying. There's not a lot of room down there. Okay. Keyboard warriors who criticize every horse vid out there are insecure and full of themselves. They believe they are God's gift to horses and can do no wrong. They are the worst parts of the horse community, period. Whew. And they need to chill out and find other outlets other than degrading everyone because of their own insecurities and superiority complex.
Damn.
Calling people out. Go off.
You know what? I agree, though.
Yeah, fuck the keyboard warriors. They're the fucking worst.
They are, and they half the time don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. That's the worst part, is like you... And they make every small video into a controversy. What if this lady just got on the horse for the very first time and they're just excited to show you that they could do that, and then now you're like, you're the worst. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, why do you have to be so negative? Why do you have to?
Why do you gotta say something? What,
just like, scroll past.
Just keep scrolling. And like, if there is an actual issue and you are genuinely concerned, you don't have to,
kind way.
You don't have to publicly humiliate them. You can call them, or if you don't know them, message them privately and address your concerns, but don't publicly humiliate someone over a video that is a very specific, small moment with no previous context. Exactly.
This is like our manatee video.
Oh, okay, we didn't tell them.
Okay, so we went to Florida, if people didn't know. And we decided to book a manatee tour and thought it would be fun to kayak. We were in these, like...
We were in a couple's kayak.
Yeah, we were chilling. We were vibing. And I was doing all the work while she filmed.
Yeah, I filmed
and that's
it.
okay. That's okay. I just want that to be very clear to everybody because it's important to the story. And it's a clear kayak. This is also very important. And
yeah, it was one of those see-through kayaks.
Yeah, so we were doing our thing, chilling around, and Taya was filming, and because we were like, oh, we're gonna do a little cute little video, and all of a sudden they started coming over to us, and we were told earlier by our guide, if they start coming into your space, don't put your paddle down, because then if you accidentally hit one, they'll roll and they'll flip your kayak. And we had our phones and stuff, and it's not because we're scared of getting wet. And we also saw a crocodilla.
12-foot gator.
I think it was bigger than that. But yeah, Abby was the name. Because they were like, that's just Abby.
Yeah,
and
they're like literally humongous.
Yeah, and it just comes casually. So anyways, so Floridians, whatever you're called, I get it. You're not scared of crocodillas. I fucking am.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we posted this video, our little manatee adventure, thinking it was just like
cute because they came under our kayak.
Yeah, they started mating right beside us,
and
we were
underneath us.
We paddled right into the middle. Well, we
accidentally
they came to us, and then we couldn't do anything. And long story short, they started screwing, and
they were pulling our kayak up in the air,
and we were screaming because we're from Canada. We don't know.
Also,
we just saw a gator.
Something you don't know when you look at this video that we know, we saw a wiener. Yeah, underneath. So I start screaming because it's wedged on the clear kayak on the bottom.
She just gets flashed by a manatee, whole schlang out, rubs his junk on the clear kayak,
and they're like
screaming, and I'm just like videotaping everything, like a whole little World War III is happening, and
and then it was the 2 minutes of our entire journey. We were on it for an hour. The rest was super calm, super quiet.
Yeah.
And we just had to kayak out once they kind of made their way around us.
Yeah.
But we thought it was going to be hilarious.
Yeah. So we post this video.
And we have like how many hate comments? Like
so many people have just like commented us and be like, oh my God.
Hold on. I'm going to pull this video up just for you guys. Got to go to the TikTok. But I will never understand people who panic around manatees. They literally cannot hurt you. And the next comment is this. You shouldn't be around manatees because they will hurt you. Well, which is it, ladies? Which one? God. And then, so fun. People associate them with floating potatoes, and they mostly are. To capture the rare moments they are feisty is a treat. See, this was nice. And then it's, what are you scared of? Manatees are the sweetest, most docile creatures. Love from a Florida girl. You clearly don't know. Yeah, I don't. I'm not from Florida. Where is this one? I know there was one girl who was just like,
she went off. She was talking mad shit to us.
No, it's because Taya replied back. She says, like, I don't know why people would panic. And Taya replied, you'd get nervous too if a manatee almost flipped your boat into water that you just saw a 12-foot gator in. And then we got, go home. Told us to go home. I live along this river. We swim in these parts where we can. So we go tubing in these waters, you sillies. The gator would swim the other way unless you're dangling food in front of them. This is mating behavior. My God. Nope, I wouldn't be scared. The gator is going to swim the other way. You're safer than you know. Jeez. Like, come on. We're just trying to be girls. Let us girl, okay? It was a fun moment, and people ripped us apart. Like, ripped us apart and called us white trash. Literally. Some of the comments were just like, you're stupid. And it's like, you don't need to say those things.
Yeah, you can think those things. And like in your world, like, yeah, you might be a little bit right, but keep scrolling. You don't got to tell this person that.
Yeah, so moral of the story, keyboard warriors suck because they just want to tell you how much better they are than you. Because that's literally all it is. Even with some of these comments, all it is trying to tell you, look, what I wouldn't have panicked. I wouldn't have done this. Yeah. And it's like, okay, good for you.
I don't know you.
So yes, all I'm saying is keyboard warriors are not important to this society because all they are trying to do is, I agree, they are trying to flex a superiority complex of trying to tell you how they would be better than you are.
Yeah.
And how they know more.
You just look like an asshole.
Yeah, and there's no need. There's too much hate in this world. Well, I know it's surprising, but we're at the end now. But not the end. This is only part 1's end. We're clearly not done here. We have so much.
There's so many more.
However, for our second part, the category is breeding, rider stuff, and responsibilities, starting ages, belief systems. So it's going to get a little spicy. Mm-hmm. We left it to be a bit more spicy, so you want to come back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We love the spice. We love the spice. So stay tuned for next episode. Will be in 2 weeks.
1 week.
Or in 1 week?
Oh, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
You're right. You're right. I don't know shit.
The next drop of part 2 of Uncinched Confessions will be out in 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that. If you didn't hear your confession yet, just hold on because it might be coming down the pipe. We just want to say before we end this episode, thank you so much for listening. If you want to submit more confessions, or if you're listening to this for the first time and you want to get involved, our next confessions episode is going to be on what piece of advice did someone give you that sent you down the wrong path. So if you missed out on this conversation and you want to be part of the next one, please head to the link in our bio or in the show notes if you're listening to this off of whatever podcast platform you're listening to, and find that form and submit your piece of advice that someone gave you that sent you down the wrong path, because we want you to be part of the conversation.
Reminder, it's anonymous. Like, we can't see anything. As soon as you hit that form, it won't ask you your email. It won't do anything. All it is it gives you the space to write out your stuff. We have no idea where it comes from. Yeah,
we have no clue. So you could literally say, I hate you guys. Please don't say that. We will cry.
We already had a hate comment. We don't need another one.
It hurt our egos really bad.
Actually, our first hate comment was really like affirming. It meant like we were doing something right. Now I'm like, aw. But yes, so that will be in our show notes. So if you want to get in on the action and be part of the conversation, we encourage it, highly encourage it. It also gives you the ability to kind of almost use us as a sounding board of whether or not it's something that you felt was valid or not.
Yeah.
With that being said, we'd love for you to follow us and follow along on this Uncinched journey, because we have so much more coming up. We have some really big things actually coming up in the pipeline. So stay tuned. It's coming. I promise it's going to be something that you want to know about. Try to follow and subscribe on our socials as well as to your streaming platform so you know when the latest episode drops.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.